Should you buy a house while you're in college versus paying the rent over those same years? Let's take a look at the numbers and see if it would have made sense for me and my roommate going through college. Welcome back to VTRA Customs. Today we're going to be overviewing a potential rental property that was in Indiana, Pennsylvania at IUP, the college that I went to. Now this specific property, my roommate and I brought his dad along and we actually did a tour with a realtor when it was up for sale back in 2020. A little bit about me, I spent the last year and a half working on a 75 unit multifamily investment real estate portfolio. I did that while getting my degree in finance. So we're gonna start by overviewing all the property expenses, including the mortgage. Then we're gonna look at an amortization schedule to check out exactly how much equity we'd have in the property, say at the day of graduation, or we would expect new tenants to move in if we continue to own it. And then we're gonna compare the expenses to the rent to see exactly how much money we would have spent in addition or saved. So let's get into talking a little bit about the property itself. This is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home with 2 parking spots and major renovations that needed done. It eventually sold on the 1st of March for $27,500. So the number that we're gonna use for our calculations is $28,000 for the purchase price of the property. And that's just saying that, hey, we kind of had to beat out this other buyer. Maybe we couldn't have got it for that, but that is the number that we're gonna use because someone else paid even less than that. When I say the property was in disrepair, we're talking there's water in the basement, you're gonna need to do some work to the roof, the siding, as well as all the electrical was running in conduit on the exterior of the drywall, so you could see it like in your bedroom running down to the light switch. Today's video is focusing more on the outlay of cash if my roommate and I just decided to live there as is and just put up with it. To be honest with you, living there, it might have been like a cleaner and better living situation than living at a fraternity house, which I just made a video on and evaluating if that was a good deal. So make sure you check that out. I'll have it linked somewhere up there. So if we start taking a look at the property here, I already mentioned that the purchase price is going to be $28,000 to beat out that other buyer at $27,500. And let's say we purchased it on the same date, which was March 1st of 2021. 20% down, that's $5,600. Total mortgage amount is going to be $22,400. Closing costs, 4%. Estimated cost of repairs, we're not including anything right now. And we need to put down a total of $6,720, leaving us with a monthly payment of $95.65 to cover that mortgage payment. Looking at the revenue here, for these calculations, we're gonna say that him and I weren't paying any rent into a different entity or into the property. We were just considering the rent as covering what expenses were there and hoping that we got a better deal while doing it. So there's no rent, and it is a 3-bedroom. The other one is just gonna be vacant. Maybe we use that for storage or whatever. Maybe we started fixing that up. That's here nor there. There's no revenue going directly into the property from like a rental income. Jumping over to the operating expenses, there's no marketing. The trash, we can say, was like $200 every 6 months. There's no cleaning or turnover. We live there. Insurance, about 5%, that's $720. Stated real estate tax in 2023 is about $2,700. $75 a month for both of us for gas, oil, electric, water, and sewer. No Wi-Fi because we didn't factor in the Wi-Fi that we actually did end up paying throughout the rental section. Pest control, $150 every 6 months, just as like semi-annual maintenance, and other miscellaneous expenses at $1,000. Just do some minor fix-ups and repairs throughout the year because these numbers up in repairs and maintenance won't populate because there's no number here. So that's what the 1,000 is going to cover. And even if there was some here, it'd be such a small amount. So total operating expenditures for us each month is going to be $649.92 as our initial outlay, and that number is going to be for both of us combined. So essentially, him and I are both paying $325 each. That is just for operating. To cover our debt, we're going to be paying $95.65 per month. Between the both of us, we owe $745 each month to cover running this property, and that is running it as is in the condition that we bought it, and we got it with very minor capital expenditures or increased repair. Disregard the cap rate and the cash on cash because we're not running it as an investment in the sense of like bringing in rental cash flow income, but more of a long-term amortization project. Next, let's check out the amortization schedule. Now, an amortization schedule is essentially just the calculated monthly paydown of the loan because as we know, the interest and the principal being paid every month on the loan isn't equal going all the way down. As you get closer to the term and the end of the loan, you're going to be paying more towards the principal balance, which is the equity that you have in the property, versus the interest that you owe to the lender. We ran the calculations up top as 30-year mortgage. And as you can see, if you go all the way down to 2051, it does zero out and there's a zero balance, and it's $28,000 in equity, which was the original purchase price of the property. But what's more interesting is here's year one of owning the property. We have a total equity of $6,060 in the property. And over that last year, we gained $460 in equity, and that's gonna increasingly go up. But 6-1, we would estimate that we would wanna move out of the property, get it turned over, and try and put some tenants in there. How much equity would we actually have in that property? We'd have $7,148 of equity in the property for a total gained equity since the purchase date of $1,548. Now let's take a look at the rent that we actually paid that we would be saving the money on because we wouldn't have renewed the lease and we wouldn't have paid the rent there. So we start our rent saved, essentially, that we paid, but we would have saved because we wouldn't have renewed the lease on August 1st, because that's when the lease would have been renewed. And we assume that even though we purchased the property on March 1st, we still would have had to pay our lease through the end of July. So if we scroll down to the bottom through all the periods, we can see the total rent that each of us paid was a little over $16,000 over that same time period. Total security deposits, about $600 for 2 of those years, a little bit of parking fee in there, and we each paid $18,058 in rent. And the grand total of what my roommate and I both paid was about $36,116. Now that number is a little bit higher. We paid some miscellaneous fees along the way, but that's the total rent that we would have saved if we had this house. Here's a similar chart for the total monthly expenses that we would have paid for the property and the total cash outlay over each one of these periods. We know it's about $745 per month. To make it look nice, the first 5 months are wrapped into this $3,700 number there. And then it's a similar comparison, 8-1 all the way down through. We can see we paid a total monthly of $30,568 to cover the expenses of the property during that same time period. The total leases that we would have had to pay to finish out the spring of 2021 after we bought the property that I mentioned would be about $500 a month for both of us. So a total of $5,000 to cover the 5 months rent. If we factor in the total capital needed to actually get that loan, including the closing costs, we're all in cash for $42,200. But over that same time period, we know when we would have expected to move out on June 1st of 2024, we would have equity in the property of $7,148. And that has to be considered because going into this, we knew that this wasn't going to be a cash flow on a monthly basis play. We knew that it was going to be a long-term, let's gain some equity in the property. So the profit and loss on the college buying the property, we would have outlaid $35,140. If we look at both of these rent expenses and property expenses for the similar months, right side by side, we can see that the profit and the loss on the property in the college, we would have outlaid $1,000 less than the rent we paid, minus, whatever miscellaneous expenses that we're missing. Is all that headache worth saving $1,000 over that same time period? Probably not. We spent $1,000 on much worse things going through college. I know HB Culpeppers took about $1,000 of mine on a yearly basis. We know that there's that third bedroom. What if we helped one of our buddies out and charged him the average rent that we paid during that same time period, which was $453.70. What if we charged him that on a monthly basis? We're charging him that on a monthly for the third bedroom. We're still not paying anything into it, but my roommate and I only have to split $310 per month to cover the total expenses on this property now. If we come over and look at the rent paid and property expenses paid comparison, we can see that the total cash needed here in orange is still gonna be $26,000 from my roommate and I, but that's $10,000 less than the two-person total that we ended up paying in rent anyway. And if you factor in our equity for more of a long-term investment, essentially if we wanted to pull that equity out, we would have only spent $19,460 for a savings of almost $17,000 over the same rental period. The average properties in the area, if you look around the area, you can see that most of them appreciated at about 25% over the same time period of about 3+ years. So if we did minor repairs, kept the property running all right, we can see that the property's now appreciated 25%, $35,000 now, as is if we did no major renovations. The appreciation amount is $7,000, and the total equity that we have in this deal now jumped up from $7,148 to $14,148, which helps our profit and loss on college, meaning that if we sold the property right as we all moved out, we would have got that equity cash back out and only put into the property $12,460, which is a savings of almost $24,000 throughout college. As with all the scenarios we just looked at, the more that we saved meant the more work we needed to do to make it a profitable investment. Obviously having leases and a third guy in there, you know, trying to do some minor appreciation stuff. So as we saved more money, it would have definitely been more work as we were trying to be college students and get good grades, and as well as have a good time and get our degrees. That money was being shelled out anyway, which made this an interesting video. It's like, hey, what if we actually put that money to a better cause than just paying rent, even though paying rent's not a bad thing, and most people have to do it at one point or another in their life. There could be a whole separate video analyzing a potential renovation budget of like $50,000 and get it up to some of the similar comparable values in the area of like $130,000, $140,000 for a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. But that's also a large cash outlay that we may not have been able to come up with the capital to actually execute and do. This was us deciding whether it was gonna be a good deal to rent like we did, or if we could have spent our money in a better place elsewhere by buying this really kind of low grade house and trying to make it work and maybe trying to add a little value somewhere here and there. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you do subscribe to see more content similar to this, real estate. Make sure you guys are checking out my shorts. I upload a ton of shorts every day. It's about real estate, it's about fitness, and it's about golf. Those are the 3 main topics. Comment down below if you know someone that's done something similar like this, or if you'd be interested, maybe you wish you did it in college while you were doing it. And like the video as always if you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching this episode on B. Terry Customs today. Have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.